Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I am Don Fisher, your host. Thank you for being here, whatever time it may be, wherever you may be, as we continue this series, Moms, Movement, and Mindset, how to break through resistance and transform your body and mind. Excited for our guest today, as I've been for the entire lineup that I've spoken to so far. Today, I'm going to be speaking with Keena Ferguson. Super talented woman here. Her love of all things creative. She is a dancer, choreographer, actress, visual artist, writer, producer, and director, has led her to fully accept all of her many talents, and Keena now calls herself a multi-artist. She is starring in Tyler Perry's new TV show, Sisters, on BET, and recurring on the CW's All-American. She also has had roles on the hot Golden Globe and Emmy-winning show, Atlanta SWAT, on CBS, opposite Shamar Moore, recurring on Amazon's Gordon Moore Gibbons' Life of on Normal Street, and many movies on Netflix. Today, through her company, Go Get It Done, she helps writers and creatives develop their content in all stages from pre to post. She understands that there is no one size fits all when it comes to creating content, and that each project, each storyteller, and each goal is different. Helping other creatives be inspired and get their projects done and out into the world is what she strives to do for each artist. Hello, Keena. How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing well. I was doing the very best I could to read through your bio there because you were just, I'm speaking to pure talent right now. So thank you so much for being here.
You did a great job. You got through it. You did a great job.
Okay, so I just want to let you do your thing and let you talk. So we'll jump right in here.
Okay.
With through your work, the people that you've worked worked for, could you just define what resistance is to you, and then provide some examples of either from your own life or that people, like I said, that you've worked with that you've seen kind of block people from moving forward.
Resistance to me is a fear. And some people might say, "Oh, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid." But to me, a fear doesn't necessarily mean you're necessarily afraid. It just means you're not willing to jump forward as you're being led to do. And so to me, resistance is anything that is holding you back from going to get what's yours. Anything that is holding you back from what you know is your purpose, what you know you are driven to do. And anything that stands in that way, that's procrastination, that's excuses, that's I don't have enough time, that's I need more classes, anything that you're using is a resistance, right? So what I've seen, even in myself, is we can always give ourselves an excuse, right? Because we like the familiar, we like what's comfortable. That we know, right? But what is hard is jumping into the unknown. And that's where the resistance will come when you get to the edge of that cliff and you're like, okay, no, I'm gonna do it. Oh, that's a really deep cliff. And then you start thinking, is there gonna be something to catch me? Or am I gonna have enough money? How do I know it's gonna work out? How do I know people will still like me? All those things that pop up against you, that's your resistance right there. And then in that moment, being able to say, no, I'm gonna fly anyway, is when we take that jump and go to the other side. And I've seen that in myself. I've seen myself say, oh, I don't have enough time, but then, I have to shoot a television show and I make the time to get my butt on set and shoot a television show. So what would I have done with that time if I wouldn't have shot that show that day? Probably not the things that I was feeling resistance against doing.
Exactly. And, you said so many good things there. The one thing that really stood out is you talked about someone's purpose and maybe like their drive towards doing something. So if someone like they're experiencing resistance, but they want nothing more than to change, they feel like they are being called towards something specific. Why would this resistance crop up? It seems like that shouldn't be an issue if they really truly want to change and they want a specific goal.
Well, because change is scary, right? Change is hard. Change is I suck at change, even though I try to embrace it and I know it's the only constant in life, but change is hard, right? Even people who are sad and miserable have to literally decide, I am going to leap into this next stratosphere that I'm being called to do, even though you know what laying in the bed looks like or what, living living in a way that doesn't fulfill you looks like. We all know what that feels like, and we're creatures of habit. So we want to stay in that. And that's why it's easy for us to be there, right? Change, oh gosh. I mean, there's all the what ifs that come up. The thing that we remember, what I try to remember is, because change is constant, we never want to be staying where we are. We want to be moving forward. We want to see growth. And the only way that you're going to do that is to move, right? So we talk about it, but you have to actually take the steps and do it. And for me, what that starts with are small steps. That starts with mapping out, how can I take a small step every day? How can I so for me, being an artist, right? If I'm writing my next script or preparing for my next role, or even trying to manifest the role that I want next, what are the steps that I can do that are small? Okay, well, I can give myself that I'm going to write 15 minutes every day. Doesn't matter what it is, but I'm just going to write 15 minutes every day. And that's what I'm going to give myself to do. And then maybe that crosses over into 30 minutes. Then maybe the next step is, I'm going to reach out to some people that I know are writers and ask them if they'll look at some of the stuff I've written. Okay, that's a step. Okay, I can do that. That's doable, right? It's like taking it in these bite-sized pieces, which is something we all know, but it's just really putting pen to paper and saying, this is what I'm going to do, and I will hold myself accountable in doing so. I think I
So
went
it
a little
sounds
off of what you asked, but
no, you're awesome. I mean, that just led me into something different. So I mean, it sounds like kind of like reverse engineering. Taking like, I guess, what your big, like, long-term big picture goal is, and hey, what's like the easiest, most practical next step to just move a
right,
little bit closer, right? Is
right.
that's
Yes. But then also, I think there's a moment where you feel bold, you feel radical, you feel like, you know what? I am done with this. And today is a day that I feel like I want to make a move. And those are the days you do radical, big, bold steps. And then you should do those. I don't say you should take your little one step that day. Maybe that's the day that you say, I'm going all the way with this. I'm calling up CBS and I'm going to ask them if I can come to the lot and have a meeting with whoever. I don't know what your big step is, right? But whatever that is, on those days that you feel radical, move in a radical way. On the days that you're unsure are the days that you just go step by step, right? Because that you can do. But if you feel radical, move forward, because something is telling you to do that. When you feel, to me, it's like when that idea comes in your mind, when you have the idea that you should be doing something else, that means everything else has already been laid out there. You just got to go find it. And a good friend of mine always says that. And I always remember that like, if I have an idea, I'm like, well, that means everything I need has already been made available to me. It's just waiting on me to go get it. So I can go get it today, or I can let it sit out there for 3 years and then be like, oh man, I wish I would have done this 2 years ago. I was like, it was here 2 years ago. You just have to be ready and available.
Yeah, that's awesome, because it's almost like in any way I'm feeling, or someone is feeling, they can move either way, whether it's a little
Mhm.
bite-sized piece today, or like you said, being bold. And I honestly get that from your energy. You seem super bold. And honestly, from your bio, the one thing I read that kind of stood out to me was, like, I read that, like, as soon as you graduated from the Ohio State, by the way, once you graduated, you were out and you went straight to Los Angeles chasing your goal. So I feel like there's nothing stronger than an experience. Do you want to,
Yes.
like, maybe share that at all? Like, I don't know if that was a big part of your journey.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I graduated on a Saturday and I moved to LA on a Wednesday. And for me, I always knew that I was going to move to, at first it was LA or New York. I was like, am I going to move to LA or New York? And then I decided I was going to move to LA, but I always knew. So, but I knew I wanted to have a college experience. So for me, it was like, I want to go to college. That's something that's important to me. I'm going to go to college. But then after that, I don't need to go back home. I don't need to work. I just want to move to LA and start my life there. And so I started putting those ducks in a row. I came out to LA about a couple months before I graduated and found an apartment and started to like just test out what these waters looked like. I started wrapping my mind around that and meeting people and putting out phone calls to people that I didn't know, but that were friends of friends of friends. And I didn't have any fear. I mean, I literally was calling up people going, hey, such and such told me that you're such and such's cousin who said I could call you because I went to, and I know maybe like oh, okay. I'm like, yeah, I'm here. I'd love to like meet and hang out. And that's how I started to meet people, right? With being okay with whatever decision you're making and standing in that and being good with that. Um, so for me, people were like, you're going to move and you're going to, yes, that's what I'm going to do. I feel very, yep, that's exactly what I want. If I fail, that's fine, but I need to do it on my terms. I need to not get what I want because I did everything I could, not because I didn't try and not because someone told me I shouldn't, or they said that I should wait. So did I go out on you a little bit?
You cut out just a quick little bit, but you're good. Can you hear me right now?
Don,
Yeah, can you hear me right now?
I can now.
Okay,
Technology,
perfect. I
resistance,
know.
technology, resistance.
Oh, yeah, right. And we could still be here and do the thing here. So the one thing
That's
that
right.
I got there too from you
That's
was
right.
um relationships and
Okay.
then fear.
That's right.
So the fear, the one thing I wanted to touch on with that is a lot of, or no, excuse me, failure. So you said failure, and a lot of times people like they want to assume a failure is like that's a person, like, oh, I'm a failure. Whereas failing is more of like an act. It could be like a data point. So I don't know, like, did you ever fail and then learn from that, or did you just quit? Like, where did your journey take you when it comes
Oh
to
God,
failure and failing?
I fail all the time. Right? Because failure is what we put on ourselves, right? Failure comes from what our own expectations of success is. So if I expect that I should be living in a mansion in the hills with 8 cars and a private jet, then when I don't have that, I feel like a failure, right? But that's according to my radar, right? So for me, yeah, there's a ton of things I don't get, a ton of TV shows I don't book, there's a ton of movies I don't book, there's a ton of like just all that stuff that's wrapped up in that. And there's a ton of like getting really, 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 really close only to not get it, which could feel like failure. But the reality is that that just tells me that I'm on the right path. That just tells me that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And also, and to me, sometimes when you don't get what you think you should get or you don't move in the way you think you should move, sometimes that's just the lesson to make sure that A, it's what you want and that what you're going for is important to you, but also B, that you have cultivated the skin, the strength, the stamina that you need to stay in what it's going to require of you for what you've asked for. And so with that, sometimes you realize, oh, I might not have been as ready as I thought I was. You know, yes, shooting a movie is fantastic. Being on a series is incredible, but also it's long hours and it's away from family and it's away, you know what I mean? And yes, some people are like, whatever, but it's whatever your own issues are whenever you're in something, right? So there's things that come along with that. Like, yeah, when I was shooting Tyler's show, it was like I had my 6-month-old son. I was in a different city away from my husband, and I was shooting 12 hours a day and then going home, seeing my 6-month-old son in a hotel room for a little bit and waking up and going back to set the next morning. And it was glorious and amazing. But also, I wasn't seeing my son all day and he was a baby and I was missing my husband until he could fly. He was flying in like every like 5 days. You know what I mean? Like there's all these other things that are happening. But it was like, but I had been prepared for that. I had already set myself up that I am ready to receive this, whatever that means, And I mean, being a new mom, that's, and the moms out here will know that's hard, you know?
The one word that comes to mind from your experience right now is committed. Um, I'm sure there was probably days where you probably didn't want to do that. You probably wanted to stay home, with your 6 month old child. But you still move forward anyway. So, I mean, can you touch a little bit on that about how like commitment, drive, having a purpose, having a vision can help somebody to move forward in
Yes.
spite of how they're feeling?
Yes. And actually, what I'll say is for me, the commitment doesn't come in getting the cherry. So like getting that TV show was the cherry, right? So I loved going to work every single day, and doesn't matter how tired I was in the mornings. Like I loved like, okay, my driver's coming, they're picking me up. All of that's amazing. The commitment though is when I don't have the job and I have to audition and I have to study my characters and I have to practice auditioning and I have to like do my readings and do all the things that sometimes I'm like, I'm not even working right now, but yet I'm acting as if I'm working. But that's where the commitment comes in, is acting as if you already have it, so that when you get it, it is not a new train of thought. It's a thought you've already been cultivating as you've been committed in your steps forward to get to the quote cherry, right? So for me, what that is do I want what I say I want? Yes, I do. Then if I do want what it is that I say that I want, then that means when I get up and I don't feel like it, I have to do it anyway, because I know that that's what's important to me.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely sounds like what you're referring to, or at least part of what it took away, is your way of being.
Mhm.
Um, I know a lot of times too, it's like, oh, if I have a better job, or if I have the better car, or if I have the better husband, wife, I'll be good. And the way you just described it, it seems like the exact reversal there. Like
It
you
is.
had nothing and you were like,
Exactly. And that's ultimately what it is, right? Ultimately what it is starting before you actually get it. Because otherwise you may not know how to be in that moment, right? You may not know how to be when you get there, which is why some people, you see the rise and the fall of people, because there are expectations on you when you have it. There are other people besides yourself and your family looking at you to do whatever it is that you're to do, right? So when you put yourself out in the world, whatever that is, you want to write a book, whatever, there's fans who want to hear what you have to say, and there's press that wants to hear what you have to say, and there's an agent who's waiting to make sure you write your next book, and there's a literary, your literary manager who's making sure. There's all these people expecting things out of you, and if you haven't prepared yourself to already be living as if, when you get there, it could be overwhelming and people can shut down and they're like, oh my God, this is so much. And he wants this and they're pulling at me here. But if you've already been moving as if, and we've already been in a flow as if, and we've already been, yep, okay, so I get up and I work on this, and I get up and I work out, and then I do my, mantras, and I say my affirmations, and I do this every day. Then when you get there, we're not retraining, we're just doing what we've already been doing. Now we just get off this, the goods that come with it.
oh man, that's great. I mean, I guess the thing that I feel like clients that I've worked with, and this is so hard because, like you said, you experienced it, so it's tangible for you in that sense. Um, but a lot of times it's like people can't grasp onto that, just that way of being, because it comes back to like mindset, like shifting how we're thinking, and because it's not something real to touch. I don't know. I
Mhm.
feel like maybe sometimes people don't buy into it. They may feel like it's not real, or oh, that's
Yeah,
fake, or that works for that
right.
person but not me.
And it's hard. And listen, it's not easy. It's hard, right? Like, full transparency, I was up for a TV show last week, and then I knew I didn't like nail it, even though I was up for it because they've seen me a bunch of times. And I was really down on myself for like 2 days. But then I had to say to myself, but have I been doing the work that requires? The reason I didn't feel 100% confident is because I haven't been doing the work that it requires, right? Even though it's in my body and, I make my living as an actor, what that job required wasn't in me because honestly, I hadn't been doing the work. And I had to be really honest with myself about that. I've been momming and doing other things, and that's okay. But it's just to remind ourselves. And I think the other thing is that it's okay for things to be hard. It's okay for things to be challenging. It's okay for us to not feel like doing it. That's okay. What the fix is what do you do anyway? Right? Like, what do you decide to do anyway in the midst of, right? So it's like Olympic athletes. I'm sure they don't always feel like getting on that track, but they get on it anyway. And that's what shows up when you get to the Olympics, if you will, whatever your Olympics are in your world. And kind of to your point, I think this is interesting about like they don't believe in it. Um, Two things that come to mind. One is surrounding yourself with people who lift you up, surrounding yourself with a community of people who believe in you enough to keep telling you it can happen for you. You want this? Okay. Did you do this? Being accountable to you. The second thing that comes to mind is, and I said that because there was a group of people that I was with for like a year, and we were just being accountable to each other. And one of the things that the guy said is, my friend, he said, you know, when you get a new car, all of a sudden you feel like everybody has your car, right? You're like, oh my gosh, I'm seeing this car everywhere. I don't feel like I ever saw this car until I got this car, right? That's the same way you have to look at being as if, right? If you feel like you're already there, and it can sound, metaphysical and very like, flowy if you want. But if you think about that, it's just the same way as if you think about calling somebody and they call you. If you think about like, you know, I was really feeling like X, Y, and Z, and then you get a sign that happens. To me, it's like, we used to say, look for the orange car. If you say, I want to look for, I guarantee I'll see an orange Beetle this today. I guarantee I'll see it. I know I'm going to see it. And then you see it, it's your confirmation. So as much as it can feel like, I don't want to do it, act as if, okay, but just if you try it, you know it's true. There's somebody listening right now that was like, I guess I'll listen to this and see. I mean, I don't know if I should do it. And they're just like, whatever. And they're like, oh, that was your confirmation. That right there, whatever it was, that's your confirmation, which means, yep, you just acted as if. That's all acting as if is, getting the confirmation for what's already in your brain.
I think that's such a great transition. But before I ask that question, have you noticed in your experience with like through your journey, because I mean, you've just done so many things, but acting as if and like just working hard, like have you found like the more work that you do or the harder that you work, the luckier you are?
Oh, that word luck is not a word I use often. And everyone has to be in their own way, right? Everyone has to believe whatever it is they believe. I find obviously working hard does it, but what I find more so is working in flow. And again, even for me to say things like that now feels like, oh, that's so earthy, right? Like we're working in flow, flow like what? But I promise you that I have just seen it because I'm a Taurus. I'm very strong-minded. I'm very much like, if you tell me this, I'm like, what about this though? No, but what about this? Right. And the times that I go, I'm just going to flow like water. This is saying go over here. The times that I've done that, to answer your question, I don't think it's about like, I have to work hard and this is hard. I think it's about flowing in the direction that you're meant to be going in. And I don't think that it's, people use the word hard work and it gets a negative connotation. So I think what I'm trying to do is take the negative of like working so hard off of it and just being mindful and intentional about where you want to go, what it is that you want to do, and how does that look like practically? That looks like, this is what I want. What are the steps I can do to get there? How can I continually be positive about that? How can I surround myself with people who can continually pour into me and tell me this is the right thing I'm going to do? What are the things that I can look for, as I call them, God winks, that tell me I'm on the right road? So, yes, I want to be writing a book, and then I meet someone the next day at the coffee shop who's like, oh, I'm a book editor. Okay, I'm in flow. Okay. All right. I hear you. You know what I mean? Or you have an idea for a story, and then someone's like, oh my God, let me tell you this story I heard. And you're like, I was just thinking about writing a script on that. It's so interesting. I haven't heard that. Right. Like, I think it's about, yes, putting in the work, but keeping your mind clear on what it is that you want and not getting cluttered. Working hard for what it is you're going for and not allowing your mind to get cluttered and distracted by other things. Yeah, I know that.
Yeah, I mean, you
I
said
feel
that
like that said a lot,
beautifully.
but
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you said it, but it's all great because what that made me think of, that definitely clarified a lot of things. So what that made me think of is, I mean, I've heard this a few times, but most recently in the training, and it was what you resist persists. And I just feel like what you're saying is like too often we feel this resistance. And a lot of times it's because that's the direction we're being called in and we're fighting it. Whereas if we didn't fight it and we accepted it, we would probably transition into what you're saying is like that flow state. And now it's
Yes,
not so much hard work, you're flowing.
yes, absolutely. That's exactly what, that's why it is when you resist, resist, persist, right? Because when you're going to the next level, and I'm going to use, because I voice a lot of video games, I'm going to use this. Whenever you go to the next level of a video game, it gets harder. That level gets harder, right? So it's the same thing, right? So it's like, oh, this feels really, really hard. Oh, no, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. And it feels hard. So then you're like, yeah, see, I shouldn't do it. But then you go through it and you're like, oh, this is a cool level. I like this level. This is a good. Oh, it's tough though. It is tougher, right? Because you're going higher, right? If it was easy, we all know this. If it was easy, everybody would do it, right? How many summits? How many self-help books, personal growth? How many of those things are available? But yet people are still not. They're still not grasping it. They're not grasping it because it is hard. It's easy to do for a short time. It's hard to do for a long time, right? And so
Amen.
for me, what it is what things can I put into place that I can do over a long period of time, as opposed to like, if you take dieting, it's like, sure, you can do this drink and do this thing, and you can, maybe you will lose that weight for this wedding, but but if you're doing absolutely no carbs and you're doing no desserts and you're doing no alcohol and can you sustain that for life? Probably not. You're gonna want to eat carbs and you're gonna want to have a cookie. So what practices can you put into place that you can do that you can sustain yourself, as opposed to like a quick fix, you know? Um, and so just using that in relation to resistance, right? How can you get in flow and be working towards your goals? It is about what are the things that you can do to sustain yourself, so that when you get there, you have something that still sustains and grounds you to go to the next level, and sustains and grounds you to go to the next level. Because it does only get tougher, right?
Yeah, I mean, sustainability is for sure so important because I mean, you hit the nail on the head. It's like we can't go 0 to 100 because we're not going to do that forever. And then, I mean, I just feel you transition into our last question here so perfectly. Not so much resistance, but I want to turn it to resiliency now. And in being able to get to that next level, right? To level up, to work through those challenges, to flow with what you're being called to do. How is it that somebody can do one thing and then they're able to face larger or more challenging tasks in the future?
Well, I think one thing that even through all this that we have to remember is being present. And I just want to give these things, like being present, right? So we're talking about working hard, passing against resistance, making sure we can be sustainable, making sure that we can be intentional, but it's also about being present in life, taking in the world around us and being present, and not having our mind on a billion things, but like enjoying that conversation with someone at the coffee shop, having dinner with your spouse and just talking to your spouse, playing that game with your kid and just being present, because to you, right? That presence is going to bring you ideas, and it's going to bring you a clear mind, and it's going to open your heart. All of these things that are going to happen when we're being present. I think two is for me, remembering that there is no balance. I always say, like, I want to find the balance in being a mom and a career, but there's always going to be something slightly off balance, and knowing that that's okay too, that there is no one right way to fix it. There's no one right way to be. So maybe right now I'm being more mom, or I'm being more career, I'm being more wife, or I'm being more, writer, whatever it is, right? I think it's also in knowing that the scales being off balance is okay. Everything isn't always going to be balanced. And so writing that out wherever you are. And then I think the third thing is self-care, remembering that you have to take care of self. And whatever that is, that's mind, body, and soul, whatever, and spirit, whatever that is for you that you need to do to reset, to recharge, to regroup, to be prepared for the next steps. Do that, because, people always say, like, you can sleep when you're dead. And I'm like, if you don't sleep, you might die. Like, you gotta sleep. You know what I mean? You need to sleep, people. You know, you need to eat. You need to like, you know, you have to recharge. And I feel like the pandemic helped a lot of us to see that, like, oh, right, it is important to be still. So to me, those things are what help us be resilient, being present, you know, realizing that there isn't any one way to do anything. There is no complete balance. And then self care. Those are things that help us to be resilient. Those are things that help us carry on to the next level and the next level and the next level. Because
Perfect,
Oprah is
Keena.
busy. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think busy is an understatement for
Right.
Oprah.
Right. But she
There's
still
another
finds
word.
time. Right. But she still finds time to do the things that matter to her and to take time for the people she loves. And that is what keeps, you know, recharging her to be able to do her job.
Absolutely. So, Keena, thank you so much for being here. Everybody, again at home, watch this. This is Mom's Movement and Mindset: How to Break through Resistance and Transform Your Body and Mind. I'm Don Fisher. This is Keena Ferguson. Keena, thank you so much for taking
Thank
time
you
out of
so
your
much.
day. I mean, you crushed it, and I mean, I knew you would. I mean, you filled the virtual room here with talent and your gifts. So, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you so much.